Hello, denizens of the internet. Welcome to my first real YouTube video. I'm Evelyn Silver, upcoming author of The Bloodline Chronicles, Witch's Night with the Wild Rose Press, writer of Bath Book Reviews, aka Books I Read in the Bath, and your disembodied voice attached to a cartoon for the evening. Today I will be doing my first booktube review of a book I read in the bath last night, A Sea of Pearls and Leaves by Rosalyn Briar. I look at several aspects of writing, pick on a few details, then at the end I'll give a rating out of 5 stars for the categories of writing style, world building, characters, plot, romance, and health of relationships, then average it together for my rating. I'll also give a heat level, but this isn't part of a quality rating. This book was suggested to me when I asked for queer and polyamorous romance recommendations available through Barnes & Noble, as I had a gift card burning a hole in my pocket. I'm so glad that I picked this up. I enjoyed almost everything about this story, the world, the romance, and the characters. I'm going to do my best not to give too many spoilers, as I definitely want to recommend anyone looking for an engaging queer and polyamorous fantasy romance to check this book out. A Sea of Pearls and Leaves takes place in a world with sorcery, magical beings, intrigue, and the smell of ocean salt. All while I read this book, the thing that stood out the fastest for me as one of its strongest points is the description of the island nation it takes place on, Norella. I always felt like I could smell the ocean, feel sand, taste salt. The prose was engrossing and the setting was ever-present in a beautiful way. Additionally, the world was crafted in a way that didn't feel like too much information was being thrown at me most of the time, and all the information supported the story. One small detail with world building that took me out of the story only for a moment, but I can suspend my disbelief in light of the rest of the book, was the use of the word Chardonnay to describe a wine. This is a fantasy world with its own unique countries and lands, and Chardonnay wine is specifically named after a village in France in our world. The author also mentioned a Merlot wine, but since Merlot isn't named after a specific region, just a French word, that's a little more excusable. Still, I feel like it was a missed opportunity not to name the wines after regions in the book, or to have some unique special vintage of alcohol native to the island, like sea plum wine or something like that. Again though, this is a really small detail to harp on, and I don't want to take off any real points for it. The main characters are Princess Ingrid, Priestess Lilura, and Prince Soren. They are all absolutely a delight in their own ways. Ingrid is a great main character with determination and fire while still sensible and intelligent. The main conflict that starts the book is her father and stepmother insisting that she be married to a man, and so she and her girlfriend Lilura figure out a way to hopefully get all her suitors to leave her alone within the legal rights Ingrid has as the nation's princess. Unfortunately, the plan backfires and a competition begins to see who will be the prince to marry Ingrid. I love the way that Ingrid and Lilura work together in such a way that really made them shine as people. Soren, one of Ingrid's suitors, particularly stood out to me because he has such a relatable, tangible sense of anxiety. I love the way he coped with it by counting things and reciting the alphabet backwards. It was all so endearing, and I could really see my own anxiety reflected in his character. It made him feel so believably real. I liked a lot that the story didn't start with Ingrid and Lilura meeting and falling in love, but rather well into their established relationship. It's not a romance about them learning to love each other, instead it's about them growing as a couple in the face of hardships. I haven't read many books with relationships that are already established in the beginning, and this was very beautifully done. There's a lot of fade to black, except for a few small sections when it comes to sex in their relationship, so while they are very sexual and apparently kinky, it's implied rather than shown, and what ends up in details on the page is relatively vanilla compared to whips, ropes, and paddles that are hinted at, yet never taken out. Though this isn't bad, of course. Vanilla can be great fun, and I enjoyed what I did get. So don't start reading this and get put off by kinky mentions if it's not your thing, and don't expect more kink if that's what you're looking for. The plot didn't have any real twists or surprises for me. It was all very straightforward and predictable, though I don't know if that was the intent. I think the murder mystery aspect was supposed to be a little bit more secretive, but I had it figured out fairly early on. The journey was nonetheless enjoyable, as I don't think that unpredictability is a marker of a good or a bad story. It had fairy tale vibes, which is very good since it's a reimagining of a Brothers Grimm story called The Three Snake Leaves. There was a section I didn't care for that felt like the conflict was a little manufactured, but I can't go into it with much detail because it would involve spoilers. But it wasn't something that would diminish the enjoyment of the rest of the book. The romance was beautiful to me, as I mentioned before regarding the sapphic relationship between Ingrid and her girlfriend Lilura. I will say that the final choice regarding how polyamory played into the story felt a little forced by the end, and I think a different polyamorous configuration might have felt more natural to the characters, given their personalities and their previous actions. But I could still enjoy it and the fairy tale ending that it gave. I won't say more than that to avoid spoilers. Happily, I can say that there wasn't anything unhealthy in the relationships. No macho man posturing by Soren, no unreasonable jealousy. Given the setting and the situation that gave rise to all the romance, I think that the relationships were as healthy as possible, and that was beautiful to read. One could make a note that there could have been a bit more communication between Ingrid and Lilura about their relationship at a few points, but considering Lilura's empathic magical ability to feel Ingrid's emotions in addition to her own, taking time for herself rather than forcing herself to communicate seemed like important self-care that was necessary and completely fine. You can't have a healthy relationship if you don't take care of yourself first. So, I would rate A Sea of Pearls and Leaves by Rosalyn Briar the following. 5 out of 5 for the writing style. The prose was just so engaging and beautiful. Chef's kiss. Mwah. 5 out of 5 for the characters. I particularly loved Soren and his anxiety, but enjoyed going along for the ride with all the characters. 5 out of 5 for the world building. There was the one note about the wine, but I don't want to be harsh on that. I love the mythology, everything about the island, its people, its culture, and its history. 4 out of 5 for the plot. Overall, it was a very good fairy tale plot. I was a little annoyed with spoilers, but otherwise, very enjoyable. 4 out of 5 for the romance. I honestly loved every second on the romance, and the only reason I'm taking off a star is due to the choice made on how the polyamory ended up that I felt wasn't the best fit for all the characters, but still could be enjoyed as a fairy tale. 5 out of 5 for the health of the relationships. Already discussed that, no need to go any further. 3 out of 5 on a heat level. Remember, this is not a grade, just a statement. This is because of all the fade to black scenes, the hints at kinkiness. Those things I would usually put at a 2, but since there were a few sex scenes that could get pretty spicy, they weren't very, very long or very, very explicit, so this gets a 3. A 1 for me would be no sex, and a 5 for me would be straight up erotica. Total rating is 4.5 stars, rounded up to 5 because I'm generous. You can find A Sea of Pearls and Leaves on Barnes & Noble and Amazon, and maybe somewhere else, but that's the places I saw it. I would definitely recommend this book if you haven't read it already. And it is an excellent addition to anyone's bookshelf who is looking for fantasy romance with queer and polyamorous representation. If you like this review and want to support my future content, be sure to like and subscribe, and check me out on my official website, Twitter, and all those social media nonsense links. Au revoir, and have a fantastic night.